I was there first. We always have to tell people that. I hate to tell people I'm from Boulder. But it's just such an honor to be here to do a tribute to Jim. We've been friends for so long I can't even hardly remember. I think I met Jim the first time in about 1966 or 67. We had a late season deer hunt in Colorado up in the high country around Silverthorne and that area up there. And I was involved in getting that hunt. And I don't know why we did it in November. I think it was just because the rut was on. But I'll never forget that. Steve Gore and I were up there together. We went out the first morning and it was incredible. It was 10 below zero. We had every ounce of clothes we could put on, which made it so we couldn't shoot our bows. We couldn't hit nothing because we had so much clothes on. And we come down off this mountain about noon, we were going to have something to eat. And I looked up and I seen Judd Cooney's pickup. And I had met Judd a few years ago, and him and Jim were the best of buddies. So I told Steve, I said, let's go up there and see if Judd's done any good. He lived in that area, so he knew it real well. And we went up there, and here was Judd and Jim and Fred Bear. And Judd had taken those guys hunting up there, and Judd had killed a nice deer that morning. But he was kind of used to that. I think he was wearing his bikini. And the rest of those guys had so much clothes on. They were the same way. I'll never forget, Jim said, I can't hit nothing. I can't even hardly pull my bow. It's so cold out here. His fingers was frozen. So that was the first time I met him. And then in '69, we had corresponded a little bit. In '69, we had the Pope and Young meeting together there. And we got to be friends. And we were, I think one of the things that put Jim and I real close is we both married beautiful women. And not only beautiful on the outside, but beautiful on the inside. And Sue and Judy got to be real good friends. And I can remember them doing the Pope and Young Club get-togethers, and they would be manning the desk at the front and drinking wine and having a good old time. And it was not too long after that Jim started coming up and doing a little hunting with us. We had some of the best goose hunting in the world on our ranch there in a farm. And he would come up. It was so funny, I'll never forget the second time. Judy would always make lasagna. Jim loved lasagna. And she would make lasagna. She's a good little Italian girl, and she really could make that stuff. And Jim got on the airplane, and that was in the days when they would feed you when you got on the plane. And the stewardess come along, and she said, what would you like to eat, sir? And Jim says, well, what do you have? And she said, well, we have a really good lasagna. And he said, I'm going up to eat dinner with the gal that invented lasagna. End of conversation there. But we came down here to visit Jim and Sue after they moved to Oklahoma here, and we had a good time. We've never been down in this country, and we come down and visit with them. They took us to dinner one night, and we went to this real nice restaurant. And I was just kind of a novice caller of animals, and Jim was one of the greatest that ever lived, as all you folks know. You know, that guy could call anything. So he was teaching me, especially the turkey hunting and that, because we didn't have very many turkeys in Colorado, and I wanted to hunt turkeys, and teach me how to call deer and all coyotes and all that kind of stuff. So we were doing pretty good, and he told me one time, he said, you know, one of the things that you get used to, if you just practice, is calling with your voice. And so we started doing that without using a call, and he taught me how to do that. Well, we're sitting in this restaurant, and of course Judy and Sue were sitting across from each other, Jim and I were sitting across from each other, and this real cute little gal comes walking in with some folks, and just a good looking little gal there like that. And she walks by, and Jim, out of nowhere, Jim goes over and he goes, I started laughing so hard I could hardly do it. Judy just kind of scowled at him. But that was Jim. We had a lot of fun together. We did quite a bit of hunting up there. He would come up and hunt geese. And the kids just loved him because he was such a great caller, and we had so much fun with him. And I think that's another thing that put us fairly close is Jim and Sue had 5 boys, and we had 5 kids, except we had a girl in the second one. So we each had 5 kids, and we love them all, and their kids too. I seen kids when they were very, very little, and now it's kind of neat to come back and see them all again with the kids and the grandkids and everything. Jim and I were on the board of the Pope and Young Club together, so we spent a lot of time there, and we've done a lot of hunts. In the last few years, we've done some hunts in Texas, where Jim came down, and it always hurt me something terrible to see his condition, but that guy was so strong, you know, losing all that weight, but boy, he was so strong. And I think that was another thing, we kind of had a payback deal, because when Jim first come down with cancer, and he started taking the chemotherapy, it was tough. Boy, it was whole body chemotherapy at that time. And Sue and I talked a little bit when I called to talk to Jim, and she said, boy, he don't want to go back, and because it hurt him so bad, you know. And so I'd get on the phone and I'd say, hey man, you got to go back. You know, you got a wonderful life, great kids, you got to go do it. And we talked about that. Well, 30 years later, I would think it was 25 or so, then it was payback time, because then I came down with cancer, and mine wasn't near as bad as his. But the chemotherapy was a tough deal. And then he would tell me, you got to stick with it, man, look what it's done for me. And I beat it twice now, and I'm very, very thankful to the Lord for that, and thankful to Jim and Sue for their strength. So Jim's just been a great, great friend, and I don't think any of us will ever forget him. My wife was really bummed, because she's the funeral director at our church, and she had a funeral yesterday, and one today, and one tomorrow, so she couldn't come down. But she wanted to make sure we gave the love to the family. And we'll never forget Jim. Thankful to see you guys, and thankful for your friendship.